Hello, hello, hello. How is everyone? If you landed here, you've landed on Let's Talk News, and I am your host, Leticia Remauro. And tonight we are going to talk about the sorry state of America's judiciary and the fact that TDS is running rampant through the judiciary. And if you don't believe me, we're going to show it to you here tonight, because what has happened or is happening is it's just absolute nonsensical. I don't know how many of you have heard that we had a federal judge apologize to Cole Allen, who is accused of an assassination attempt on the President of the United States and his cabinet at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. Did everybody see that? I don't know if y'all saw it or not, but let me just play this for you so that you can get a sense of what the hell is going on in DC federal courts.
This evening, a federal judge apologized to the man the accused White House Correspondents' Dinner shooter for his treatment in jail. Cole Allen's attorneys say he's been subjected to solitary confinement and denied basic requests inside the D.C. jail. Our Matt Gregory has been following this for us. So, Matt, now that the judge has apologized, what happens from here?
Judge Zia Faruqui inside the courtroom wanted to know why Cole Allen was deprived of the normal privileges allowed for inmates. The comparison he made in his mind was simple. If January 6ers got standard treatment, why isn't Allen?
Cole Allen back in federal court in his orange jumpsuit listening while Judge Faruqui had questions for the Department of Corrections. Allen's attorneys provided evidence that during numerous psychiatric evaluations, Allen has never shown any signs of suicide risk or homicide risk and has no known enemies in the jail, but still the DC jail placed him in solitary confinement with 24-hour lights and 5-point restraints at times. Then the jail moved him to restricted confinement, but still denied him access to the Bible he requested, denied him access to an iPad to communicate with family, and denied requests to speak to his legal counsel at times. Tony Towns from the Department of Corrections said Allen has been found a suicide risk, but produced no evidence. But he said he believed it was because of the political violence and high-profile nature of the attack that he was subjected to these conditions. When Judge Faruqui asked him if this is about precautions because of the nature of political violence, why were no January 6 rioters placed under these conditions? Towns didn't answer, but said they are working to accommodate Allen's requests. The judge apologized to Allen, then laid out his demands to the Department of Corrections. Essentially, they have until 9 a.m. tomorrow to explain when a final decision will be made on how Allen will be housed.
Now, at the same time, the judge had a demand if Allen isn't given the same treatment as the January 6ers. He wants a list of reasons why and to explain how they will keep Allen safe while not infringing on his rights. And if you're wondering why the judge made such a big deal about this, he pointed out that this is about our justice system. In this country, he said, you have the right to a fair trial. You also have the right to be presumed innocent as much as these allegations are serious.
And you have a right to be kept alive and not be allowed to take your own life, because what you did, he figured that he was going to be killed by the police, and he stated that. So, I mean, and what's this whole J6 nonsense? What does one have to do with the other? We're going to get to that in a minute. Hello, Francine. Oh, yes. Let me show my comments. Hello, Francine De Gregorio, Kevin Young, Kevin Wall from the other side of the earth, but the same side of the issues. Hi, Angela Ricca. Hello, Jeff. Good to have you. Andrew Dorman. Lucille Chavon's with us. Let's see. Susan DeRema is with us. Yeah, we are in Bizarro World, Francine. Yeah, it's jail. Since when do we allow iPads in jail? That's news. What a freaking Democrat judge, an idiot. Yes, Kevin Young, I agree. Andrew Dorman says lax security measures is always unacceptable. Jeff Pardo, I just saw a video. 19 states banned a bunch of rifles and guns. Scary stuff. That's very scary. We're going to wind up with red states versus blue states. It's really going to come to that. Susan says, what a disgrace this judge is. He should be gone. So disgusting. But he's not the only one. He's not the only one. The DC courts are crazy. But before I get to some very disturbing statistics, let me show you what happened with the J6ers. I don't know if you all remember, but I'm going to show you what happened to J6ers. Faruqui says that he should be treated the same as the J6ers, which I'm trying to figure out why, because the J6ers didn't have any weapons, didn't try to assassinate anybody. That wasn't the goal of January 6th. The goal of January 6th was to say to Congress, have Congress hear the people, to say, please don't certify this election until you look into the anomalies in the states. Nobody was there to kill anybody. Nobody was there there were absolutely no weapons. The only person that got killed was a protester. Nobody had any weapons in J6. But anyway, here's this.
5 viewer Kelly from Alexandria sent us this one. Is it true people arrested for crimes on January 6th are still being held in jail with no bail? What are the charges? Our sources, Niyama Romani, a former federal prosecutor now at West Coast Trial Lawyers, and this landmark decision from the D.C. Court of Appeals. Let's start here with that Court of Appeals decision. It distinguished between those who had a more active or destructive role and those who had a more passive one.
Most of them have received some sort of bail, but the folks that engaged in the most violent acts, they are being detained without bond.
Which is why people like Julian Cater and George Tanios, the men charged with pepper spraying police officers, including Brian Sicknick, are still in jail. Thomas Civic is being held until his trial without bond for allegedly assaulting Officer Fanone, ripping his badge and radio right off his uniform. And members of the Proud Boys militia and Oathkeeper Jessica Watkins have also been denied pretrial release under conspiracy charges.
The biggest reason why federal prosecutors want to hold someone without bail is that it's much easier to get a plea agreement and a deal when someone's already in federal prison.
Romani says it is also protecting the community.
Also protecting the community. But I thought that was really interesting. Easier to get a plea deal when you're holding them already. Isn't that interesting? Do you think that we have a problem with our DC justice system? As a matter of fact, I am going to put up a poll. Do you think we have a problem? Do you think the DC federal judges are politically motivated? So let me know what you think on that one. We've got lots of things going on here. Hi, Ryan Logan. How are you, darling? Susan Durema says, very sad. There's too many of these people. Yeah, there really is too many of these people. Kevin says that when you try to shoot the president, you're not treated like everybody else. So that's interesting. I agree. J6, again, no weapons, but he wants this guy treated the same. No reason for any of the J6ers to want to commit suicide. This guy came in there knowing that, or thinking he was going to get killed by the police. Let's see. Hi, Karen. Good to have you tonight. And Ricka says, let's make sure he gets the special meal he wants to. Yeah, right. Exactly. Jeff says, I saw a video of the electromagnetic locks on the Capitol building were turned off. They gave the tours of the building. Also, it was all a setup. I knew a guy on Facebook who was in prison. Listen, I was there. It was 100% a setup. 100%. I was there at the beginning when everybody was invited in by the police. They opened the doors and allowed them in. It was like a freaking tour. I mean, I was smart enough, and the people in my party were smart enough not to go in, although my daughter really wanted to, go. And I said to her, something doesn't smell right. Let's all just stay where we are. And we watched. And then we watched it turn violent for no reason. So, yeah, the whole thing was a setup. They would never lock them out, Jeff. Nobody was ever locked out. There were about 10 Capitol police officers on the balcony on on the side of the building. I don't remember if that's east or west, but the side that faces the Washington Monument. And they just opened the doors and told people they could go in, and it was not a problem. They didn't block anybody. They didn't try to take anybody out. So, all right, we're going to talk a little bit. I'm going to leave my big fat face up here with my crazy Borneo hairstyle, and I'm going to read you some things. So President Trump, okay, in his second term, where am I? I just had this. Hold on a second. All right, Trump administration, especially the second term, have faced dramatically more lawsuits than Biden or Obama administrations, particularly in terms of challenges to executive actions, policies, agency rules. Exact totals may vary by source and definition, but there are multi-state lawsuits that have been brought against Trump. In Trump's first term, he had 156 multi-state lawsuits brought against him. Biden administration from 2021 to 2025, he had 133 multi-state lawsuits, mostly from Republican AGs. Obama administration had 78 to 100 over 8 years. Okay. Trump outpaced Obama's full 2 terms in the metric, and Biden saw a high number due to partisan pushback. Okay. Trump's second term, extremely high. Reports are citing 530 lawsuits by mid to late 2025. That's not even a year. That's 6 months in. Over 650 to 700 by early 2026. In the first 100 days alone, some counts reached 328 lawsuits. Biden's full term, 133. Obama, even lower. There were 2. So now let's think about it. So there was 156 in the first term, and up until today, there is an additional 700 lawsuits against Trump. So it's the court orders blocking policies nationwide, often seen as a measure of judicial pushback. Trump's first term, 64. Biden, 14. Obama, 12. So we have federal judge. Oh, and by the way, the lawsuits against Trump in Trump 2, all of them, the federal courts, have all sided against Trump on executive orders. All of them, except for what the appellate division sided with him on one. Think about this, ladies and gentlemen. They are using, DC courts are being used as partisan hacks, and they are accusing Trump of using that. It's crazy. I saw a video that showed 3 Trump protesters were killed that day, not just the woman shot. That's Jeff. I don't know about 3. I do know about Ashley Babbitt, but I don't know about anybody else. They may have died subsequently because they started raining down tear gas on people, and then they were pushing with flagpoles. And I know that one guy got impaled with his own Trump flag, and one guy a rubber bullet went through his cheek, and he wound up with a severe infection. So a lot of protesters were harmed and injured in that. And I'm not going to say the whole thing was peaceful, but it started off peaceful until the cops started shooting into the crowd. And then all hell broke loose. I was gone by that time. I was gone after all of those added cops came. They then locked down the door, and that became when things got crazy. But up until that point, it was very, very peaceful and very quiet. Kevin Young says all nonsense lawsuits against him, fake lawsuits. They are all nonsense. They are the Democrats kicking and screaming and kicking their feet, not trying to not allow him to be president. And the more times they can win in court, they could do what they did with the 2020 election, right? When Trump was trying to question the election, they first said he didn't have standing. When he was when they changed the rules to the paper ballots and stuff, they said he didn't have standing because the election hadn't occurred yet. And then afterwards, they found all kinds of reasons, the different states, to not hear the case or the cases. And that then gave the media and the Democrats the opportunity to say, well, he lost in court every single time. When we know that the states where he was challenging were blue states, with the justices and judges who were appointed or elected were Democrats. So it's one of those gaslighting kind of situations. Really, really concerning. Jeff says, I went to D.C. for a number of pro-Trump protests. I didn't go on that date where they attacked us. Yeah, I didn't go on any of the others, but I knew I had to be there for J6. I knew it. So I did. Interesting who, I guess, how I wound up there while you were at all the others and I didn't go to the others. I don't know what was in my mind. I just knew I had to be there for J6. Okay, so that's the DC judges that are literally taking away our rights. They're literally saying to us, the voters, that what we voted for, they're going to ignore, because these lawsuits, mostly about migrants and about the executive orders that Trump signed, but we know that with the Maryland dad, he wound up in a federal court. And they were ordered to return him home. And then all the ones that were all the illegals that had committed crimes who were shipped to El Salvador to be held there. They were ordered by a federal judge. I think it was Boasberg, ordered both of them returned home. So the judges think that they're president of the United States and that the will of the people, us, who voted for the president to do exactly what he's doing, that our will does not count. Only their will counts. And, that's dictatorship. That is a dictatorship. Trump, when a lawsuit's brought before the Trump administration and a judge says do something, Trump has done it every single time. He has actually done whatever the judges have told him to do, whatever those decisions were, every single time, unless he was appealing them. So, even as far as building the ballroom, we have an issue with that. It's just crazy how these judges think that they know better than the president. We didn't elect them president. Half of them weren't even elected. Most were appointed. Susan said, it's really crazy how they keep going after Trump nonstop and courts are allowing this to continue. Well, that's why the question, Susan. Do you think DC federal judges are politically motivated? Yes or no? I need you to vote. It's terribly corrupt. And the Democrats like to say that it's Trump that's undermining the Constitution, that it's Trump that's weaponizing the justice system. But in fact, it's been them all along. They've always done it. And if you remember, do you remember, some of you might, if you're younger, you won't. But when Obama was in office, he was using the IRS to go after his political enemies. That was crazy stuff. So, to pretend that Obama is some sort of saint, he was using the IRS to go after his political enemies. That's a problem. Jeff says, I agree with you 100%. Yes, they are politically motivated. Yeah. Click on the poll if you can see it. We got to figure out this poll stuff. Supposedly this poll stuff gets the show seen by more people. So if you can figure out how, click on the poll button and poll. All right. So how many people heard about what our newest Supreme Court judge has done to get all the rest of the justices pissed with her. This is interesting because we're talking about political motivation. And do you remember when Biden announced Ketanji Brown Jackson as the next Supreme Court justice? And he stood there in the Rose Garden with Kamala Harris, and he called America. Well, that should have been a warning, I guess, or a premonition of things to come, because this justice seems to have a hard time keeping her mouth shut when she needs to, being professional, being respectful of the job and the position she's in. I mean, a Supreme Court justice, do you know how many people have worked their whole lives and wanted to become a Supreme Court justice? It is such a coveted seat. Only 9. If the Democrats get in, they're probably going to expand it to more, but only 9 people to make decisions interpreting the Constitution, whether our laws fall within, the guidelines of our Constitution. And she's treating it as if it's some DC bench, because that's where she came from. She came from the DC Circuit Courts, or the DC Federal. I can't remember if it was federal or circuit. It might have been circuit. But she is politicizing without shame the Supreme Court. Without shame. I'll let this speak for itself.
Samuel Alito took sharp aim at Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson's dissent to the Supreme Court's decision to speed up the implementation of last week's landmark Louisiana redistricting decision. Alito says Jackson's dissent, quote, lacks restraint, calling her rationale, quote, baseless and insulting. The Supreme Court granted an emergency application to issue its judgment in Louisiana versus Calais immediately, rather than the usual 32-day waiting period. The order allows Louisiana to redraw its congressional map, which the justices ruled was unconstitutional by a 6-3 margin on Wednesday. The new Louisiana congressional map could net Republicans at least 1 seat, and the Supreme Court's ruling significantly raised the bar to bring Voting Rights Act lawsuits over racial gerrymandering. Jackson was the only dissenter, claiming the rest of the high court has, quote, spawned chaos in the state of Louisiana. Jackson says the court abandoned its principle of not changing election rules on the eve of an election. Alito, joined by Justices Clarence Thomas and Neil Gorsuch, attacked Jackson's dissent, writing that it, quote, cannot go unanswered. Alito took particular issue with Jackson's claim that the decision to speed up judgment marks a, quote, unprincipled use of power. He openly questioned what principle of the Supreme Court the decision violated and accused Jackson's opinion of lacking restraint in its sharp rhetoric. The 10th opinions mark the latest instance of justices taking issue with Jackson's dissenting opinions with sharp language.
Okay, I figured out the poll. I had to put a no in there just to see if it would work. So here's how you got to do it. You got to put 1 for yes, 2 for no. Sorry, your host is an idiot. I should have told you. I should have read the instructions. So type 1 for yes, 2 for no. If you think that, do you think DC federal judges are politically motivated? 1 for yes, 2 for no. From now on, we'll get this. We'll get this poll going right. I see a lot of yeses, and I appreciate it. So it's 1 or 2s. That's how we do it. But at any rate, I can breathe now. Oh, I wonder what that's what Kevin said. I can breathe now. I wonder what that's about. Susan says she was a DEI pick. She certainly was. She certainly was. And we know that that's problematic. I mean, we know that. But the thing is that never. Oh, there we go. Excellent. Okay, we're getting this poll stuff down. Thank you. The problem is that if the Supreme Court becomes politicized, then what do we have left? Because the Congress is already politicized. The presidency is politicized. The one place that's not politicized is the Supreme Court. But if we are going to start politicizing the judiciary, then there will never be a free trial or the presumption of innocence. And we know that, right, throughout history, there have been those issues of people of certain colors being presumed guilty, and people of certain genders being presumed always correct, women, and whatever they said was believed, and that was problematic for a lot of men who were accused of something they didn't do. Okay. Okay. I can breathe now. You corrected your vote. I couldn't test it in the one because it was ones already. So I had to put the two to see if that would work. So erase it. There is no 11% of no. There's only one so far, I guess. But anyway, yeah, except for the one that I put there and I took it out. Okay. But I digress. I know I'm all over the place. I'm sorry. I'm a little tired from the hospital. I'll tell you about Mom in a minute. But anyway, if we don't have a fair justice system, then we're shit out of luck. I mean, then the whole program goes to shit, right? I mean, that's the whole thing. You expect the president to be political. You expect Congress especially to be political, but not the Supreme Court and not the judges. But that's the way America is going, right? We have no moral compass anymore. Nothing is, there's no manners, there's no respect, there's no self-respect, there's no dignity, there's no concern that you're going to trash the family name. And when there's no respect for anything, then there's no respect for the country. There's no respect for anything. So there's no God, there's no family, there's no country. So what's left? The almighty dollar? Well, I don't know. Because that's sure to go right out the window. If you don't have any checks and balances, that'll go out the window next. Jeff says that's why we have militias. Yeah, and that's important that we have militias. And that's so important why the Second Amendment has to be preserved, and the First Amendment. And I've been recently so uncomfortable reading some of the patriots saying that Jimmy Kimmel ought to be yanked off the air. The reason Jimmy Kimmel should be yanked off the air is because his ratings suck, not because of what he says. Same with, I saw Tucker Carlson has basically lost his mind and called Trump the Antichrist in an interview. Tucker Carlson. He's allowed to say it, and I would die defending his right to say it. But he's going to lose viewers. Same as Candace Owens lost viewers. That's if you vote with your wallet or your time or attention, then if that's important to the person, then they will get right, or they'll pay attention. But we have a lot of people out there that have no moral compass anymore. I mean, Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens, who always said that they were truth seekers, and who Candace I never cared for, but Carlson I revered because he was a truth seeker. But it was a funny thing. The left had said that the reason he was let go from Fox was because he was screwing around and he was looking for ratings and clicks and things like that. And I thought that just must be a lie. Couldn't be, because I thought he was so committed to his craft. But turned out he doesn't have a moral compass. It's whoever pays him more. And it was the Dominion case, right, that got him knocked out, because he admitted that he didn't believe that the election was rigged or that the Dominion voting machines had a problem behind the scenes, but to the camera he hyped it up as there was a problem. And that's when he was let go. And I guess that's his true colors. Candace Owens too. The one thing that you're going to get here on Let's Talk News is I don't change my mind. Well, that's a lie. I'll never say I don't change my mind. If you could give me a good case to see things differently, I will open my eyes and see that. I'm usually not far off from where I land, but I can see lots of sides. And when you're wrong, I'm going to tell you you're wrong, including the president. I don't care who you are. But the one thing I do know is that we have the greatest country on earth, and we have to preserve it. There are bad people out there trying to get rid of it. And I can assure you that the one guy that I trust right now more than anyone else to preserve our Constitution and our country is Donald Trump. And remember something that a lot of you may not know. I was never a Trump fan, ever. I supported George Pataki for president. And when he dropped out, I was a Marco Rubio girl. I still am. I love Marco Rubio, and I hope to God he runs for president. I'm not so keen on J.D. Vance. But I trust Donald Trump because I know he gets things done. Do I like the way he talks? No. Do I like that he is, sometimes very crass? Absolutely not. But not everybody is a great orator. Lots of our presidents weren't, and that's fine by me. I just need you to be truthful. And he is. And the one thing I love about Donald Trump is, and is it something that goes on with New York billionaires, the people, that have a lot of money in that upper echelons that are in the know, they can't keep their mouths shut. So there's no secrets amongst them. I was brought into some really big secrets. I still am early on before anybody else knows, because billionaires can't shut their mouths. Okay, let's see. Andrew Dorman, redistricting is a very interesting situation, but population is not a guarantee. No, it's not. But also something that DeSantis said that makes absolute sense. He had a surge of people moving into Florida because of mistakes that the blue states made. And Texas had a surge of people moving into Texas because the border was open. And also because California crapped out. So, Arizona had a surge of people. Texas had a surge of people. Florida had a surge of people. South Carolina had a surge of people. I mean, our state was I think it was 6 million. I think we're up to 8 million or something like that. So North Carolina, forget it. It was a population explosion. So you're going to wait 10 years to get a representative? Why? Why are we waiting 10 years to get the proper representative? Because if the country grew by 20 million people, including illegal migrants, and if all those illegal migrants, see, remember something. Here's the thing. I know we're way over, but I want to go through this for a minute. So Texas had a surge of illegal migrants. We know that there was around 20 million people who came into the country. Before the borders were open, it was 330 million Americans, right? The whole idea of a census is to count everybody so that you have enough members of Congress representing enough people so that they can get the services they need from the federal government. That's why we have a census. That's why redistricting is done every 10 years after the census. But when your country surges for almost 1%, is it 1%? 10%, right? If there's 330 million and you wind up with 20 million, that's 30 million would be 10%. So this is 7% increase in the country's population that we know of. Could be much more. So Texas is where a lot of people settled who were migrants, and Texas is where a lot of people went from California and from other blue states. North Carolina, South Carolina, New Yorkers all moved that way. Chicago, Arizona. So Arizona, South Carolina, North Carolina, Florida, Texas, they had a surge. Why do people have to wait 10 years for services or to have a representative? Because you don't have to be a citizen to be counted in the census. And by the way, it is by how many congressional districts you have is how many electoral college votes your state gets. And the Democrats were hoping to surge those rolls in blue states to get more congressional people. So that's where we are right now. Okay. Kevin Young, no Democrat appointed judges. We don't need them. Well, there's Democrats in the world, Kevin, and they have some control in some states. So that's going to happen. What a shame that what happened to Candace and Tucker. Listen, they're money grubbers. That's it. They want clicks. They want money. That's it. I mean, I do this. I don't want the money. I just want to make sure that I can counter the libs. Jeff says, absolutely, you are right. I talk to people regularly online that are asleep. It infuriates me. And that's why we all have to keep on saying our part. I brought Candace book Blackout when she was normal. Something weird happened to her. To both of them, it's very, very weird and it's very, very scary. And like I said, I have a problem with like America women, childbearing age. I think it's got to do with the birth control, men and women. I'm not sure, but something's wrong. Kevin Young, appoint judges at discretion and wisely when they are grilled. How about we elect judges instead of appointing them? That might be better. Susan says amen for our President Trump and the salvation of our country from this evil. I hope so. Maisie says I never liked Trump either. He's what we need now. Love Rubio now. He's ready to be president. He wasn't before. You're right about that, Maisie. All right. Almost 7 minutes over. Sorry, guys. Thanks for voting in the poll. We did it. We figured it out together. Now we can do polls. You just put the 1 or the 2 or the 3 or whatever it is in the chat and it comes up on the poll. Yay, something new for Let's Talk News. Okay, remember, if you have Spotify, follow me because I look pathetic with 3 followers on Spotify. I'm trying to keep alive the conservative voice. Wait, Andrew says DOE's Department of Elections redistricting automatically move or change voting patterns or results. You're saying that if you move we should change the count of Congress people based on who's registered to vote? I don't think so because even you need services even if you're not eligible to vote. So if you're in the country, you get services. How's mom? Okay. Here's the deal with mom. Mom is physically good. But she's been having anxiety, and that concerns me because she's going to be 86, and she likes to be in control of things. And she's not in control of this, and she doesn't like it one bit. I have to tell you something. We found out today they don't even have her on pain meds. 7 breaks, and somehow or another somebody screwed up and did not give her any pain meds, not even Tylenol. And she, throughout the day, had no like moans and groans, which was horrific, but amazing. So when they moved her to rehab and I talked to them about the pain meds and they said, oh, they don't even have her on anything. And I said, well, doctor said Percocet and anti-inflammatory. So they're going to work that out. And tomorrow she's going to start having rehab, but she's concerned because she's been in pain. And I don't blame her for being concerned. So I'm going to ask you all, please, please, please pray for mom. Pray that her mind calms because she really is worried and I don't have options. I can't even bring her home to take care of her because she can't walk and she can't sit in a wheelchair. The pain is too much and she can't lay in her bed. So the next place would be a nursing facility and I really don't want that. So pray for that her mental state becomes as strong as her body because her body's pretty freaking strong. Okay, I love you all. Thank you for asking, and I will see you tomorrow at 8 o'clock. Love, 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 love you.